Today we're going to be looking at this REDODO 12 volt 100 amp hour battery, and the neat thing about this one, it's got low temperature protection. Hi, it's Jerry. We get so many questions and comments about our use of lithium batteries, and we've been heavy into that for the past year to 18 months for our Montana. Now in our Montana, we have very high 12 volt consumption needs. We have, a lot of residential products like refrigerators and those types of things, big inverter. So we've looked at 200, we've kind of settled on 300 amp hour batteries. These are $1,000 plus batteries a lot of times. They're expensive, but we've been getting a lot of comments lately that, hey, that's great, we'd like to go with lithium batteries too in a smaller camper or a van or a bus build. We just don't need that much capacity. Isn't there a more economic solution? Well, yes, there is. And I've been doing some research, talking to a number of the battery manufacturers, looking for something that's a little bit more value priced, but yet we're not skimping on the features, the build, and the capabilities. So REDODO came to mind, and I contacted them, and this is what they sent me. They sent me their 12 volt 100 amp hour battery. This one has low temp protection. You can get these without low temperature protection, but it's just a few dollars more. It's really relatively inexpensive. I really like these batteries. When I checked them out before I contacted them, I was impressed that they use a grade A prismatic cells. If you look at those are the little box cells that you see in so many builds now. People build their batteries and do those types of things, and you're seeing a lot of your higher quality batteries equipped with prismatic cells instead of those little 3.2 batteries that are daisy chained together and crammed in there. I'm kind of spooked with those. I don't like those in batteries. I don't want to use those in batteries. I specifically look for prismatic cells. The nice thing I like about this battery, these REDODO batteries specifically, is they have a 5-year warranty, and I think that's very, very important. 5 years on a battery, if it's a lead acid, 5 to 7 years of use, a lead acid typically dies somewhere within that time frame. So if you can get 5 years out of one of these lithium batteries, that's a pretty good deal. And they do have a projected lifespan of 10 years. So, you're looking at that 5 to 10 years of being able to use these batteries. And then with that low temperature protection, you can kind of protect that battery to some degree when you're in colder climates. We live in a climate traveling climates that get below 32 degrees. You do not want to charge a lithium battery below 32 degrees. You'll either destroy its ability to be able to take a charge, or you'll diminish its ability to be able to hold a charge for any long periods of time. So that's death to a battery if it doesn't have low temperature protection, or if you don't buy those. We happen to have one of these styles of batteries that has heater blankets built inside of them that keep them from going to 32 degrees. But in these value price, to be able to find one at this price level that has low temperature protection and prismatic cells is really a bargain. Now, the other thing that I like about this battery is they have a 4,000 cycle charge rate up to 100%. Now that means that you can charge it 4,000 times before you start diminishing the ability to have a lesser charge. And even after 4,000, it will only go to 80% capacity. Now some of you that's watching this video right now might go, oh my goodness, only 4,000 charges? Well, let me kind of do the math for you. If you divide that by 365 days, it gives you 11 years of charging every single day. And unless you're living in a camper and you're boondocking every day and you're pumping it full of solar or hitting it with a generator to charge it right back up, there's not a lot of people that's watching this video that's going to hit that battery 4,000 times within the life of it. So that's pretty interesting as well. Now, this battery, when it came, was a little bit low in charge, so I charged it up last night so I could have a full battery for today's review. It does has fast charging. They say from the 10% value where the BMS cuts off here, or the 10 volt limit where the battery shuts itself off from the BMS, it takes about 5 hours to charge this using a 4.6 volt charger, a 20 amp charger. I've got those little small portable ones that you can use. That's what I used on this. And when you look at that, say to a lead acid that's been completely discharged, that's a charge time of about half that time. So again, if you're in a solar environment and you're using this during the day, typically your solar will kind of compensate any use that you would be having during the day. And at night is when you start draining your battery. And then the next morning the sun comes up, bang, you hit it with your solar panels and your solar charger, and you charge these things right back up. So these style of batteries, this size of battery, I call it a group 27 replacement that you would typically find with those lead acid batteries. This is about the exact same size, almost to the inch, of being able to replace the battery that you would have, say, in a smaller camper that has 1 or 2 lead acid batteries, or if you're building a van build, or you have something like a pop-up camper where you need a single battery. This is ideal for something like that. Or you've got a bus build, you need 1 or 2 of these just to be able to get in there and do what needs to be done as far as your power. These are a great ideal solution for it. Now let's look at this as a value over a lead acid battery. So I just went out and looked to see what the current prices of, say, an AGM battery. I like to use, if I was to use a lead acid battery, I would use an AGM. Those are sealed glass mat batteries, no off-gassing from them. But here's the thing about those. First of all, they're heavy. The ones that I looked at, this REDODO is 1/3 the weight. I mean, you can see I keep picking this up. This is 1/3 the weight of a glass mat battery. This is right at about 22 pounds, and most of your glass mat batteries are in the 65 to 66 pound. I would not be picking that one up with one hand. 1/3 the weight, so that's one value. Second, if you only have one battery, you're only able to get roughly about 50, depending on the battery, 50 to 60% of the power out of that battery. Once you get to about 50 to 40%, you should stop discharging that battery, or you'll damage the cells that's in it. That's typical, not all AGMs, but most of the ones that you're buying out there, that's what you would typically get out of one of those. Where these batteries, these lithium batteries, you can take them down to about 10% of the capacity before I recommend you shutting them off. You don't want to take them down to completely nothing, because you do have to, there's a process sometimes you have to do to pop them and wake them back up. So if you only take them to 10%, you never have that happen to you. So you can turn off your inverter where you don't have to have something like that. Or you can set up, if you have a shunt, smart shunt, you can set it up to alert you. There's a number of things you can do to keep it from discharging down below 10%. So that's something you should consider as well. And when I'm so again, I went out, I looked at something like a Duracell that you get at one of the name brand websites, or that you can buy, you know, like a Duracell at. Now, that's a moderate priced AGM glass mat battery. I was seeing those Group 27s, which this would replace, being at about $250 as of the date of today's blog. And then these REDODO, these low temp batteries, the low temp version is selling for $240 today off the website. $240, $10 cheaper, and then you can get it for about another $30 less if you don't need the low temp protection. Don't recommend you go that route, but you know, if you got the few extra, you don't have the few extra dollars, that gives you kind of an idea. Now, before we start testing, let me just share a few quick specifications about this battery, and then boom, we're going to start testing it and see how this is going to perform in a lifelike, even though we're in the workshop, a lifelike environment. So here we go. As with most of the batteries that you're seeing today that are lithium, the BMSs will support 4 identical batteries, either in parallel or series. So you would put these in parallel to be able to get a 12.8 volt system that is 400 amp hours in size. If you wanted to go that way, it gives you a chance to be able to start with one and build up. Or if you're wanting to start with a, say, a 48 volt system, and you're trying to do this on a value position, then you can get your 48 volt system, which actually comes out to 51 volts at 100 amp hours. So you can put 4 in parallel, 4 in series. These are within just almost an inch of a Group 27 battery. So if you're replacing your existing battery in your existing battery compartment, you can pretty much pull the old battery out and put this right in the place of where it was at. 22 pounds in weight. The BMS is a 100 amp BMS. You can have a continuous discharge of 1,280 watts or a maximum continuous discharge of current at 100 amps. Low temperature cutoff, 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Do not want to charge a lithium battery below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So your charge temperature is 32 degrees up to 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Your discharge temperature, you can discharge these down to a -4 Fahrenheit and up to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. And your recommended charge for these is 20 amps and 14.4 volts. So even with that, when you're looking at your charge, you do need a lithium capable converter charger, whatever you're using inside your camper, your bus, your van, whatever you're using these for. You do need something that will at least charge up to lithium capacities, and that's a minimum of 14.4. So do keep that in mind as you're looking at replacing what you currently have. You might have to make a change out in your converter charger, or just make sure you're picking a solar charger if you're just looking at solar only, or even if you're complementing your charger converter you have in your camper. You want to make sure that you don't get something so cheap that it only has a lead acid profile. You want to make sure you can go with a lithium profile as well, and that is 14.4 volts. It's very, very important. Okay, got a test bench set up here. Let's put this thing through the test and see how it's going to perform. This is our test environment. You've seen this in one of our videos recently. This is an old generic AC powered, what I call an apartment or like a campus style refrigerator. You see a lot of these things in small bus builds, small van builds. They're cheap, they're inexpensive, but they are AC, they're not 12 volts. So we're gonna, and this thing hadn't been plugged in weeks, so we're gonna hit this thing hot. We see the battery that's located here. I've got a Magnum 1000 watt. I think this will handle up to a 2000 watt surge, but not very well. I don't use this one a whole lot anymore, but it's a great pure sine wave inverter, so I'm going to be using that to power this refrigerator that's located over here. I've got an LED strip that we need lighting in our van or whatever we have there, so I'm going to go ahead and power these just with a 12 volt converter without going through a whole bunch of 12 volt plug-ins. Then I've got an old iPad and an old Lenovo pad. Both of those are over here. I'm going to charge those via USB. I've got a little distribution panel here that I'll go ahead and turn on. And so it's got USB ports. It's got one of these cigarette lighter adapter ports. We're not going to be using that. So you're seeing we're sitting right now at 12.7 volts. All right, I got the inverter plugged in. See if that extension cord here will reach. It will. I'm going to plug this refrigerator. Again, this refrigerator is hot, so yep, that's going to make the inverter run. That's a good thing to hear. All right, let's see if I can hear see if the compressor is running. Yes, sir. The compressor is vibrating. Again, it is hot as a firecracker. It hasn't been turned on in ages. It's dirty in there too. So we're going to go ahead and be worst case here and bring this up from a low temperature position. So we've got that plugged in. Let's go ahead and get these pads plugged in. I'm going to go ahead and plug them here and start charging them up. And I'll see if they'll pop. There we go. I just saw on this old I just saw the Apple pop up on this, so that's a good thing. We're charging. Again, these things are completely dead. And again, this is what you would see typically in travel. And the old Lenovo, it just popped up as well. So we're going to charge both of those guys as well. And then I've got this big LED strip. So what I don't have is a bunch of LED lights like you would typically find in a camper. So I'm just going to take these and I just plug in this whole strip here. And I turn them on. There we go. Full blast. That's going to kill the camera here. So I'm going to run those. And we're going to charge the pad up and let these incredibly bright lights go. And let's check the amperage here and just see what we're looking at from an amp perspective. All right, let's see what we're pulling here. The refrigerator here is running. I hear it running. We've got the pads charging up. Got those bright lights there shining. Let's just see what got this guy zeroed in. And we are pulling, oh, can I get the camera in there? We can. We're pulling a little over 10 amps out of the battery. 10 amps out of the battery. All right, so Let's let this guy run for a few hours. Again, no solar input. Had solar input, I think I could just squeeze the dickens out of this little battery. Just with a 100 amp panel, I think it'd do great on a sunny day. We've got our little shiny lights right there, and we've got these pads charging right now. They are needing a desperate charge. We're sitting here at, look at that, 13 volts. So we're just gonna let it run a little while, and I'll come back and we'll just check this later. Real world, an old campus style refrigerator, a good 1,000-watt inverter. We might try some other things here just to see if we can put a strain on this battery. But let's just go ahead and let it run again in this real world, and then we'll put some stress on it. We'll give it a few hours. We've been running for several hours. Bottom line is, I'm not putting a dent in this battery. So again, I really want to show some real world. Again, I want this to look like, hey, we're out camping, even though we're here in the shop. So I went out and grabbed a TV. I've got a TV going. I got one of my favorite shows on, Simply Me. I've got a Roku device that's running here. I'm running off of a hotspot, so I'm not pulling any power yet off of that. You'll notice over here, the little bright light. This is a lamp that I had to go get. I made a mistake. Never, ever, ever plug in for any long period of time a coil of LED. They got hot. No problems, but they were getting too warm. They were bunched up, so that was a dumb idea. I'm not going to do that again. I wish I had some camper lights that I could use, but I'm going to order some for some of this testing. But again, this is kind of the worst situation with this glow you see behind me, because that's actually, I'm running 120 volts. You really wouldn't do that inside your camper. You'd have some 12-volt lights, so I'm having to do the conversion, but I am going to an LED light bulb. I think it's like 12 watts, something like that. It's not much to it, okay? So we've got the TV running, we've got the Roku going, and then this is a warm day here. I'm in Georgia right now. It's a warm day. So I'm gonna put the fan on and try to get some power running on this thing. I'm gonna let it oscillate to do that as well. So we've got the fan over here oscillating, and now I'm starting, I don't know, we just went from 13.1 to 13.0, so maybe we're getting close. Let me put a voltmeter on here. I'll just go ahead and double check here real quick and just make sure that these are reading pretty true. Now this is actually reading 13.1 at the battery, so almost 13.15. So again, we're not putting, trying to see how much drain that we can put on this in a real world. So, you know, what have we got going? I got a refrigerator still running. He hasn't stopped yet. We haven't opened him up yet. So he's getting cold, but he's running. So that hasn't stopped over several hours. So, you know, this has been a continuous drain. I got the TV going. Again, it's a small TV, but that's what you would typically find in a small camper, a bus or a van, right? The Roku, and that's the only way we watch. We do everything internet and, you know, run it off of a hotspot, make it simple. Still charging the pads. One's gone to 100%, one hasn't. Let me see what the amperage draw is right now. All this running is 15 amps. Well, okay, we're just going to let it run. Again, real world, right? You know, we've got lights. We would have more efficient lights if we were in our camper. We'd be running some LED puck lights or something like that. Run the TV, run the Roku. I'm going to finish charging the pads. Let's just let it go for hours and see how this is going to perform over time. Again, real world, off of just 100 amps of battery. How would it work for you? Let's just see. And we'll let this go for a while. And I'll come back late tonight and check it. I think I'm going to wait till, I don't know, let's give it, we've been running, like I said, a couple hours right now. Let's let it run about 6 hours, 7 hours, something like that. No solar, no input, no charging, nothing else. Then we'll go from there. This will eventually reach temp. And the setting, I don't know why I latched that back. The setting on this, I had it set to max. It doesn't need to be that cold. Everything will freeze up. It doesn't need to be that cold. So I put it on something that's a little bit more realistic. Eventually this will cycle off and on, off and on. I'm gonna leave the TV running just like we're pulled into the campground and we're gonna watch till we go to bed. Let's just do it like that. All right, see you in a couple hours. We've been going for a good 10 hours now. So you can see we still have the TV running over here with the Roku. You see the light that's running over here as well. And then the fan over there has been running again for this whole 12-hour period. So we're sitting, let's just kind of look and see what the stats look like so far. So with everything running, we can kind of look at our voltage here. The battery's at 12.5. We still got a lot left in it. The pads, I left them hooked up. They're still running, still plugged in. They're all at 100%, so that's good. Refrigerator should be nice and icy cold. It's been running for that whole 10-hour period as well. Let's see what we got here. If we can make that out. There we go, 44 degrees, freezer, -2. That's exactly where we want that to be, so that's all really good. So I'm pretty happy with that. And, just a little simple setup. Again, this kind of looks like a small van, a small camper, something like that. It's working out really well. I think this has been a good test. Good 10 solid hours of all these things running. Well, at least 8 of them with the fan and the TV and those types of things. I wanted to put some additional drain on this. And it's really done a phenomenal job. I'm running at 12.6 volts. I'm not sure what I have my low voltage disconnect set up for on my Magnum inverter. I forgot to set that at a low lithium setting before we got started, and I don't want to disturb it at this stage. So I'm just going to let it go tonight. The only thing that's going to be running is this refrigerator. We're going to let it continue to run through the night. It would be just like we were out camping, and this was our setup. Again, if I had solar on this thing, we would have probably used less than half the capacity of this battery. Even with just something like a little 100-watt panel, I think it would have done really well. The sun's been extraordinary today. It had done a great job. And then coming up first thing in the morning, boom, we could have really started pumping the amps back into it again. But again, we're just going to see how the battery is going to perform by itself, and just put that through the test. Okay, so I will see you probably in about 10 or 11 hours in the morning. We'll see if it makes it through the night. And then I think what we'll do is put a charge back on the battery and maybe do some high capacity tests before we close out this. But so far, this REDODO battery, 12.8 volt, 100 amp hour, it's rocking. Good morning. It's been a little over 11 hours, and let's see how much battery we've got left. That's not much. We're bouncing between 11 volts and 10.9. Bottom line is my little Magnum inverter shuts down when it gets that low, and the refrigerator cut off. I really wanted to get down to where the BMS would turn off, but my inverter will not let me to get that low, so that's unfortunate. But it shut off sometime during the night. Refrigerator is off. It's cool. It's cool, but it's not cold, so it's probably been off for a couple hours. And, I really expected that. I really didn't think that we would get through the night, not with the taxing load that I put on it all day yesterday. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to clean some of this stuff up. We don't need the pads and fans and all these types of things going on, TVs, etc., etc. We don't need that going on anymore. I'm going to put the charger on it. I'm going to bring the battery up. I don't know 100%, but I'm going to bring it up. Come back here in a couple of hours. And what I want to do is take this 1,000-watt inverter. There's no need for me to go any larger than that. And I really want to see what some high amperage devices do, heat guns, maybe a skill saw, something like that. You never know what you're going to need out of the camper, or if you're using this in an off-grid situation, you're going to have some power needs from time to time. So I really want to see what the BMS of this battery is going to do when I have a high amperage draw from this inverter here. So, I really want to put it to the test. That's the only thing that I haven't done, even though I've had that constant drain over a period of time. I'll just admit this. The battery has performed extremely well just in what I call normal use. So let's stress it a little bit. Put the charger on. I'll see you back in a few hours. as I finish the evaluation, let me just kind of cover a few things about a 100 amp battery. Now, if you have been working within 100 amps in your camper, you already know some of this, but if you're looking at upgrading to lithium, you might be thinking, oh my goodness, I'm going to have more power to do things. Well, yes and no. You'll have more power over a longer period of time, but you still only have 100 amps to work with. So regardless, you're not going to be able to exceed that 100 amp capability. The reason I'm bringing this up is you saw me using in my testing bench here a 1,000 watt inverter. I think that's a perfect match for 100 amps of any type of battery that you're using if you're having to convert DC into household AC, your 110, 15, 120, whatever you want to, however you want to phrase that. But what you only have to work with is roughly about 8 amps. So you have to think about that with your higher wattage devices. So if you get one of those little small, 800 watt microwaves, you can use that usually on a 1,000 watt inverter. Things like small crock pots, small air fryers, small Instapots, those types of things. You can usually find those well under 8 amps, and that will give you the ability to be able to take strong advantage of using a 100 amp battery, and especially a lithium battery that's going to give you, about twice the capacity from a longevity standpoint than you would get over lead acid. And then the other benefit too is if you're needing to charge up your camera batteries or your laptop, or if you've got portable tools like drills and saws and things like that where you're having to charge up the batteries, this is a perfect application for something like that. But it has its limitation that you're only going to get 100 amps out of the battery, and 100 amps out of the battery is going to be, about, it just depends on your inverter, usually an 85 to 90% efficiency factor on most of your good quality inverters. So think about that. That's going to be, 1.2-ish more power that you're going to need out of the battery just to be able to make that AC power. That's all being said there. Okay, so I was showing you how I could use the 1,000 watts. What I wanted to show you is what you could expect if you overload it. So I am going to overload this battery because I want to see the BMS shut off when I go over 100 amps, and I'm going to do that with a heat gun. I've got a heat gun here that pulls about 1,650 watts, and that's going to probably push this battery somewhere up to, I'm going to say about 140, 150 amps, and that BMC battery management system is going to shut off. I can assure you of that, even though I haven't done it yet. I can assure you. So it'll probably take maybe 3 or 4 seconds because it can handle a surge, but once it determines this is long term and not a surge, it'll shut off. So I'll show you with just the cool on and how many watts that's pulling, and then I'll show you what a failure looks like. I have the battery charged, not completely full, but it's still well within operating range, 13 1 volts. It's more than half the capacity remaining, and which is going to be just a short duration test here. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on cool, and you see I am pulling, just the fan running on the heat gun is about 40 watts, and we're pulling about 6 amps. And this, I'm going to have to move this camera quick, but I'm going to put it on heat now, and boom, we went to 1650. We're at 145. I just heard the fan cut on this, and there it went. So that shows you that the BMS does work within an overload, and it can handle a short duration surge for any type of a device. This went from, went up to about 145 amps, and it probably held at maybe 3 seconds, 4 seconds, somewhere thereabout, before it wasn't the inverter that shut off, the BMS then shut off, and it's, you just have to power your device down and power it back up. But that just shows you the limitation of a 100 amp battery. You can expand the capacity, you can add another battery, another battery, another battery, get more amperage out of this if needed. But just for 100 amps, this shows you what you can and can't do. I think yesterday's test that I was doing and through the night was a great application for a 100-amp battery. We were running that small campus apartment style refrigerator. We ran TVs for 10 hours. We ran, with a Roku. We ran a household light with an LED. We ran the fan for that 10-hour period as well. I think that was a substantial amount of use of showing a practical application for a 100-amp lithium battery. I think it's ideal. Again, if you're changing out your small camper, you've got 1 or 2 Group 27 batteries. A single one of these is a great replacement. And again, if the budget allows it, these things are less expensive than your AGM Duracells that I was showing you, your Group 27 Duracells. So, you could replace both of those and not only double your capacity, but quadruple your capacity. So it's a great application for something like that. It's a nice battery. It's a very nice battery. I'm very pleased to see its performance. It did everything that I expected it to do. It worked very, very well. Held up really well over a period of time. Now, what I will be doing, it's going to be several months from now. I've got to wait for our camper to come back into town and us get off the road. We're going to take a little break in the summer. And then I am going to be doing a small solar upgrade on I think it's about a 32-foot camper. The application here is, it's a family that just needs to be able to have some solar to be able to keep the batteries capped off, where they take it out to a hunting property, and it might be sitting out there for months with no power. And they want to make sure that the batteries are available when they come back out, that the refrigerator's capable of running and those types of things during those periods of times. They can get the slides out until they can run something like a generator or whatever else that they'll be using. So I think this will be a great application. So I'll be doing, a small install, and I'll be using this battery, an MPPT controller, 100 watts of solar, and we're going to do a full install on that, and we'll be using this battery. And I think that'll be a great application. We can kind of give you the performance of that over a period of time. So I would like to thank REDODO for providing us with this battery. They were very, very supportive. I contacted them, said, hey, this is what we would like to look at. And they provided us a battery pretty quick for us to be able to do our evaluation. If you're interested in looking further at their products or even purchasing this, if you look down in today's description, I will have links in there that you can go to be able to click on and get more information. And if you would like to see the full specs of this battery, you can go out to ilovervlife.com and you can look at today's blog, and it will also have the links. It'll have the video in there for future reference, and I'll do full specs on it as well, so you can see exactly what this battery can do. And again, with a 1,000-watt inverter, it's just a great application for providing your supplemental AC needs where you're out traveling about in your RV. Well, thanks again for watching. I appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, do so. If you like these types of videos, a thumbs up would be great. And we look forward to seeing you on the road. And you know why I do this? Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's because I love RV life. Thanks for watching.